Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Coe. I'm delighted, as ever, to be joined by Record Sports Keith Jackson. Keith,
hectic,
non-stop.
and starting to get a bit excited. I must admit, was over at Hampden earlier, talking to Steve Clark, just written a couple of pieces for online and for tomorrow's paper. And sometimes when it's one like this, and there's not been many like this, when you get to write those pieces, you start getting you picture yourself, you picture the game, and the nerves start to kick. And I'm quite good at keeping that away, but I must admit this is unusual for me. More than 24 hours before kickoff, it's starting to bite a little bit. Even just seeing Scotty there at the stadium, who's just left the press conference with the Danes, and can give us an update on exactly what's going on inside their camp. But just seeing them there at the stadium again with the lights on, it gets you going a little bit, doesn't it?
It
Gets you going.
And I should say for everyone watching, we will have a little bit of a Celtic update later on their managerial search. But as Keith says,
yeah, that's a curious one as well. We will need to examine that.
Yeah, we will indeed. But one man who is still at Hampden is the one and only Scott McDermott. Scott, how's your nerves? How are you feeling?
A bit like Jacko, I just can't wait. Can't wait for the game. The closer it's getting. Even listening to Andy Robertson, as well as Steve Clark, we spoke to Andy Robertson the day as well. You can sense the excitement within him. I mean, this is a guy that's played in Champions League finals and won the Premier League and all that. But you can just tell this is right up there with the biggest games he has his life. The prospect of going captaining Scotland at a World Cup. These opportunities don't come around too often. So I can't wait for tomorrow night. The atmosphere in here, I really hope is one of the best ever. I think that'll play a massive part genuinely against the Danes in terms of trying to get us over the line. So I can't wait to be here tomorrow night.
I mean, Keith mentioned there at the top of the show, you've just heard from the Danes, the Danish side, their press conference. There's been a lot of stories in the press about a sickness bug. I mean, how true is that? I mean, I don't want anyone to be ill.
Please tell me they're wiped out.
No, quite. Look, it has affected them. I think 2 or 3 players have been kind of struggling with it. But I suppose the big news, obviously, Rasmus Højlund, ex-Man United, obviously now at Napoli, he was one of the ones that was toiling with over the weekend. Didn't play against Belarus, and I don't think he has trained since that game, but he is included tomorrow night. And I know the Danish press here, they expect him to start or at least play a decent part of the game. So that'll actually be a boost for them. I think there's only one player that hasn't travelled, Anders Dreyer, ex St Mirren. Curiously enough, he came on at the weekend, but he's going to miss out. Look, the coach Brian Ream, I mean, he's realistic about it. He's not trying to hide it. He says it has affected them. It's been he says they're suffering a bit of a hangover from the weekend, both in terms of the result and obviously the sickness bug. But he's obviously putting a brave face on it. It has to, and ultimately, they're still one point ahead. They're still in the driving seat, to go to the World Cup. And I mean, one of the first questions he was asked tonight was, how does he deal with 50,000 fired up Scots as well as the players in Steve Clark's team? But he responded confidently saying that they won't be any more fired up than us. So they're right up for it as well. It's got all the makings of an absolute cracker.
And of course, Keith, the one sort of bad point for Scotland today, we mentioned last night that if Billy Gilmour was fit, it would be a really big boost for Scotland. Obviously, it doesn't look like that's the case.
No, it's not the case. I'd heard just before we flew out to Greece, actually, when would that, Scott? The days are merging into one another. That was Thursday of last week, and before we left, it was suggested to me that he might be really struggling, that the injury is a little bit worse than even Scotland and Napoli had originally thought, kind of midway through last week. So I was disappointed, but not entirely surprised when Steve Clark confirmed today that Billy Gilmour won't be included in the squad, won't have a part to play in the match, because I think we could really, and you know what I think of him, and we've said, I've talked about it. I think the composure, the craft, the ball retention that he adds to the middle of the pitch I think it's so important for us. I always think we're a better side with Billy Gilmore on it, but we're going to have to find a way. And you know what? I've now reached the point where we are where we are. These guys, they go to war for us time after time after time. They're not always perfect. Steve Clarke is not always perfect. His decision making sometimes can leave you scratching your head. Some of the performances from these players, likewise, you can be baffled by them. The first half hour the other night, but do you know what? It's go time now. It's get your best 11 together, get them out there, and let's try and really take the game to the Danes, because I think Scott was absolutely right. He talks about the atmosphere. I think that place, the roof will come off it tomorrow night. And Steve Clarke has been messaging, sending out the message, telling the fans, come here, be positive, get right behind us. And I think if we really go hard at them, Scott, especially if there are some sort of illness and, it might have taken a toll, just go hell for leather, get the pace right up, get the intensity right up, and see how they deal with it.
I think you're right, Jacko. And the crowd thing's interesting because Steve Clarke and Andy Robertson both said the same thing. I think Steve Clarke might have said this even after the Greece game. He talked about the crowd getting behind them, right from the start, and also even when there's setbacks. He wants
that's what he says. They'll be at their most important.
Yeah, and they need a full 90-minute backing. And look, I'm not having a go at the Scotland fans, but there has been games here recently where the team's been booed off at half time, booed off at full time, and look, the performances haven't been great. But I tell you what, I mean, there's still a squad of players that have got to 2 Euro finals and are now on the cusp of getting to a World Cup. So there has to be a wee bit of a reality check here. No, we know the performances haven't been perfect, as Keith says, but tomorrow night, certainly, I think Steve Clarke's right. Forget any qualms they've got about misplaced passes or who's playing and who's no. Just get behind them for the off, because I genuinely think, I don't think Denmark are that great a side. And as Jacko says, if the roof comes off this place and Hampden's rocking right for the off, then I'd love to think that they could blow Denmark away, just for the whole occasion. Especially as I say, they're not just struggling physically with the sickness bug. I think this Danish team will be struggling a bit psychologically, just trying to recover for that blow
after the weekend.
I agree.
Because I mean, they would have went into that game so confident of getting the job done. They go 1-0 up. They've probably taken the foot off the gas, and to suffer that, that kind of, I'm not saying it's an embarrassment, but it's a major blow to them. What that dressing room must have been like after the game, knowing that they haven't got over the line, and then they have to come here, of all places, to try and get the job done. I think psychologically it'll be tough for them. But the only way Scotland can take advantage of that is if the crowd are at it for the start, but also crucially if the team are at it for the start. They need to start fast. They need to fly out the traps, play with a real urgency, intensity, tempo, all the stuff, and aggression, all the stuff that you'd expect for a Scotland team. The kind of stuff we've seen in the last 20-25 minutes in Athens the other night. I think if Scotland start like that, then they can get ahead in the game and they can get the job done.
Obviously, Scott, you're seeing the Danes. I don't know, and I don't want to say anything here that comes back to bite us all in the bum, but in terms of the kind of most recent history of the Danish national side, I think this is one of its weaker guises.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've struggled since Christian Eriksen stepped out of it, and even when he was playing such a prominent role, he was so key to them that the Danish fans even laughed about it. The plan is get the ball to Christian Eriksen, and he would just make things happen. And I think they've really struggled to fill that void. They don't look, and that game we played in the opening game in Copenhagen, they never really troubled us. I didn't feel in that game. They had plenty of the ball. We gave up big bits of the midfield to try and play with 2 up top to get out from the back. I never felt really concerned at any point during that game, and that tells me that this Danish side, I think, is probably a bit of a work in progress. I think they've got top seeding because of the stuff that they've done in previous years with Eriksen. And I don't think they've got the quality to replace him yet.
That game in Copenhagen, Jack, you remember Eriksen was without a club, so that's why he he wasn't involved. He was so far out the picture at that point. But he's back now. But I would argue, no, he's back. But he's not.
Are we expecting him to start tomorrow, Scott?
I think he'll certainly. I would.
He started against Belarus, didn't he? He started against Belarus.
Started at the weekend. It's funny, the Danish press actually, they suggested a team to us earlier on and Eriksen wasn't in it. So whether they're going to leave him out for a game like this, the coaches certainly talked him up in the press conference there. So it'll be interesting to see what part he plays. But look, with all due respect to Christian Eriksen, who's been an unbelievable player with an incredible career, I think it's fair to say his best days are probably behind him.
Yeah.
I think you can say the same about Kasper Schmeichel in goal. Again, with all due respect, I would even argue the same about Højbjerg. I know Højbjerg, the captain's now at Marseille, but I think he's 30, 31 now. I don't think he gets about the pitch as much as he used to. I agree with Jack. I don't think you don't want to write any team off, especially it's Scotland we're talking about here. But I look at the Danish starting 11 for the weekend, and I just think there's nothing to fear there. Even with Højlund coming back, and Højlund's a good striker, obviously, a good young striker.
I hope it's the Man United version of him.
Yeah, me too.
But even with him coming back, I don't think there's anything to fear for Scotland. If we get the best version of Scotland, as I say, playing with that aggression and tempo that we'd expect, with this crowd behind them, there's no reason why Scotland can't go and win this game tomorrow night. What an opportunity they've got.
Right, Scott, you've got to go and do your written work now. But before you go, you're going to have to give us your big match verdict, your score prediction, please.
I'm being optimistic. I think Scotland will win it. No, Jack, I've gone for 2-0. I've gone for 2-0 in the paper. As I say, I'm really optimistic. Listen, there is part of me, we've talked about it the last couple of days, there is part of me thinks it just feels like it's written in the stars. I mean, that experience on Saturday night we had in Athens, when you're 3-0 down, you think it's all over, and suddenly you're back in it. I mean, that tells you that something special's happening. And as I say, I just think the crowd will be a huge factor. I'm not sure how the Danes will react after the weekend. I think we'll go and get the job done.
Scott, what a lovely note to leave you on. We'll let you get on with your post-press conference duties. But thanks as always for joining us on the Hotline Live.
Brilliant. Cheers, boys.
Cheers, Scott.
See you, Scotty.
Scott McDermott there, Keith. We've got tons of comments.
By the way, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that's not starting to hit when you see him at the stadium and we're talking.
Stadium and everything, I know.
This is going to get a bit mad because I've already gone early here. I don't know what we're going to be like by tomorrow night.
I know it's going to be huge. We've got tons of comments coming in, as I say. People asking, actually, funnily enough, about your team selection for tomorrow, Keith. Before will we get a bit of the Scotland manager first and come back to that, or how would you like it to go?
Yeah, well, why don't we listen to what the manager and the captain had to say earlier on today, and everybody can start to get the butterflies the same way as I did.
That sounds good to me. Let's see what they had to say a little earlier today.
Can you give us, first of all, a squad update? Billy Gilmore, has he made it?
No, Billy didn't make it. He's still suffering from his injury, so everyone else is fit and ready to go.
In terms of the crowd, how important could they be, and what's your message to them in terms of, from the get-go, really getting behind the team and almost being a kind of inspiration for them?
Yeah, crowd are always important here. I spoke about it, I touched on it briefly after the game in Greece. We need the crowd. We need the crowd with us. We need them. You probably need the crowd more in the difficult moments than you do in the easy moments when you're on top of the game. So I think if we all work together, we can make it a great night for the country.
Steve, since we've got back yesterday, so over the last 24 hours, I've spoken to at least 2 grown men who have said they're sick with nerves already and looking forward to Tuesday night. How do you insulate your players from that? Because the country feels this now.
Yeah, but the players have got a job to do. If they're not nervous or excited by the challenge ahead, they wouldn't be at this level. So they understand the magnitude of the game and what it means. But they just have to prepare for a game of football and make sure that they're focused on how we want to play. They're focused on what Denmark might do. That's our job as a coaching staff, is to give them the ideas, and then when they cross the white line, they have to go out and play. And if they go out and play as they can play, then I believe that they're good enough to get the result that we need.
Last questions, please.
That's the thing that you've mentioned, Steve, is that you trust your players implicitly. They trust you. The bond between you is really strong. I wonder if over the last 2 or 3 performances they might have tested that trust a little bit to get to the point. Are you still as confident as you would always be, have always been in them going into this game, given they haven't hit the levels that you probably expected from them?
No, they haven't. They haven't. But we're there. We have the points required to make sure that this was the cup final that we all wanted. In football, sometimes things don't go your way. I mentioned after the October camp, when everybody was disappointed that we hadn't played as well as we wanted to play, that the most important things in a qualifying campaign is points. So we have those points. The game in Greece the other night, if you're comparing that to the performance at Hampden against Greece, was probably a better performance and a lesser result. So the players understand. They know how well they have to play. They know they're going to have to play as well as they can play against a good Denmark side to get the result we want. They understand what to do.
I'm Mikkel from Danish TV, Viaplay Denmark. We saw that Denmark, the Danish team, has some weaknesses against Belarus. When you look at this Danish team, where do you see that you have the best possibilities to punish Denmark?
No, I think it's probably better that I don't tell you what we're going to do. That's the first thing I would say. And the Scottish media that are here will tell you that I never tell anybody anything about my team or my tactics or what we're going to do. So I understand your question. Listen, I think Denmark are a good side. They habitual qualifiers for major tournaments. They know what to do in a game like this, in a situation like this, and we have to make sure that we know what to do and make sure we do it a little bit better than what I believe, despite a disappointing result in the last one for the Danish team, is a very good Danish side.
That was the Scotland manager, Steve Clarke. Keith, we can also hear from the Scotland captain, Andy Robertson.
What are you expecting from the Danish team? Obviously, they suffered a shock to many people that draw against Belarus. And what are you expecting, and how are you expecting them to respond from that?
They're a fantastic team, a team full of quality, a team that's pot one for a reason, a team that's used to qualifying for tournaments. And as it stands, they're obviously going to the World Cup because they're in first place as it stands. So, it's obviously up to us to try and take away what they have at the minute. So I think they're a very good team with quality all over the pitch, and we know that. We've played against them, obviously, last World Cup qualifying campaign, and obviously we've played against them away from home already, and they caused us problems, which you expect with the quality they had. But we maybe had a little bit of luck that night, but also, defensively we stood up strong as a whole team, and we're going to need that again. But, we also have to cause problems because, we obviously need to score one goal at least. We have to win the game, and if we do that, we know where that takes us. So it's going to be a tough game, no denying that. We're playing against the top one team, it's always tough against them, and we need to be we need to bring the best version of ourselves, and if we do that as a team, then we believe that we can get the result that we need. We're excited for tomorrow. The lads are ready. We'll be ready to give it all. We hope the fans are ready inside the stadium to get behind us. No matter what, there might be setbacks, there might be frustrations and things like that. But I think all I can say is get your seats early, get behind the boys, make a noise, make it an incredible atmosphere for these lads, and then hopefully we react off that.
Yourself and so many other players have done so much in the game, Andy, but what would this mean, trying to sum that up, to be captain of Scotland at World Cup?
I don't like thinking about it, and that's the honest answer. I hope I can talk to all of you tomorrow night and tell you what it means and what I think about. But obviously I've been very lucky to play in Champions League finals. I've been very lucky to win trophies and things like that. But the one thing I've probably been good at throughout my career is I've never thought about it until it actually happened. So I'm excited for the game tomorrow. I'm looking forward to the fact that we've got a one-game shootout to get to the World Cup. And that's what I'm pleased about. And like I said, hopefully if that then does happen, then tomorrow night I can tell you how I feel about
As I say, Keith, honestly, you were saying, does that not get you going? Andy Robertson there, Really, that's got the butterflies going for me.
Because the guts are going like a cement churner here.
That's it. Well, look, we've got tons of comments that I need to throw at you. A lot of people asking about team selections, about who you would start, who you'd throw in. But before that, there's a couple of people. I mean, Blue Nose John, he says, get Keith in to do the team talk. And your friend, our old pal Gianni, is concerned about you. He says, lucky Keith is a stick of, I think he means stack of Greek cigs on the cheap to get him through tomorrow night's game. I mean, we all know that your body's a tempo in that, vapes only.
Exactly, that's a ridiculous thing to say.
Exactly, usual from Gianni. On the actual game,
from a ridiculous man.
On the actual game on the pitch, let me throw a couple of comments at you. Big Rab says the Scotland team hasn't replaced Kalmak or got anyone else that can, and the player in the middle can tick. Where is Miller, as he has that in his locker? Green Machine says the game is too close to call, even though it's a home tie. Scotland usually makes things hard for themselves. We need to score first. Alex the Gamer says, don't know how we've managed it, but we have a chance. Let's take it. This feels like it's destined to be, as we've been lucky at times. Come on, Scotland. Davy Mick isn't as confident. He says the Danes haven't lost a game yet. They'll be like a wounded animal tomorrow night, and they also beat the Greeks twice. The Mackenzie family, they say, can't make up my mind who I want to start up front. I think I'd rather Dykes. I don't really rate Shankland. Adam owes us a goal. Joseph says must play Shankland, not big Aussie, not fit. Hurst is the big name. Young, fast players, of course. Ben Doak. And Modernist Gaming says we're going to see McKenna Hendry. And of course, friend of the show, Kyle Gunn says, guys, big question. With no Gilmore, do we go 2 up top and miss out midfield? And that brings us nicely, Keith, to your team selection.
It's a good question. It's a good question from Kyle, isn't it? And because that's exactly what we did in Copenhagen. We did give up the midfield. We, looked for Lyndon Dykes to win headers. My God, if he won one header, he must have won about 99 of them. Yep. It's hard to think of one that he didn't win. He really gave them something to think about. And for that reason, I think I would start with them. Listen, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And because nothing has really been working and we've kind of been getting by this campaign almost by accident at times, and because I asked that question of Steve Clarke, do you still trust him? Do you really, really, really still trust him? Because I think he will lose a bit of trust given the standard, the poor level of performances that the side has put in at this critical point. And yet here we are, 90 minutes away. I think overall he does trust them. And I think what he's asking for is for the nation to trust. Just put your trust just for 90 minutes. You know what? If it doesn't work, you can come after Clarke. And by the way, I'm sure we'll still be going after. We'll still be going into playoff. But let's just park everything for 90 minutes and let's see what he comes up with. If it's me, I don't want to sacrifice the midfield. I think we're a better team than that. I don't think we have to resort to punting it long and winning second balls, even though we did, and even though it got us the point we needed in Copenhagen. A point's not enough this time round. I want to see us try and dominate. I want to see us get in the ball. I want our better players to get on the ball. I do think it's a sore one that Billy Gilmore's not going to be part of that. But I do think we've got the players that can play Denmark at their own game in the middle of the pitch. I don't think we need to give it up. I do think we've got players that can hurt them still.
Aye, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. I think we can see your team actually on the screen.
It's a difficult one. You dropped this one on my lap with about 5 minutes to go before we went on air.
It was about 5:30, but I thought a pro of Keith's caliber, he can easily.
I think I'd do more than half an hour. Honestly, do you know what I've done as well? I think that's more me thinking that this is the team that Steve Clarke will pick, apart from maybe one or two.
Do you know what was weird to see McGinn on that left-hand side? I know he can play everywhere, basically, John McGinn. I thought he was brilliant the other night. He just took the game and went, I'm going to just run at this player. I know it's not his game. He's no a jet-heeled winger, but just his determination the other night. I could see him getting a goal tomorrow.
Yeah, but he's not a winger.
No, of course not.
And nobody would pretend that he would. He's not. But he plays the position very cleverly. And what this system allows Steve Clarke to do is get McTominay in a more advanced position. You could look at it. I know that people would there's been a bit of criticism of Lewis Ferguson, Since Saturday, I don't think he had his greatest game. I think he's still to really catch fire as a Scotland player. This could be the game for him.
Yeah.
But I think if you put McTominay or McGinn back in that sort of deep line midfield position, you lose the threat,
Yeah.
or part of the threat that they offer in a more advanced part of the team. And I think we're going to have to carry a threat. We're obviously going to have to carry a threat. As Andy Robertson said there himself, we need to score at least once. You know, there was a whole bunch of things going through your head when you're sitting there looking at that. Do you bring Kieran Tierney back? Do you go back to the 5 and get Robertson and Hickey further up the pitch on the flanks?
Maybe get 2 up front,
Do that.
Shankland or whatever. Or...
Yeah. But I think if you do that, what are you going to do with Mick Gannon-Doak?
Aye, that's true. I know.
There are some people that might even suggest, yeah, you know, his final ball's still not as polished as it should be, and he might be better coming on, impacting the game from the bench. I just can't have it. I know there are still faults in his game. His blistering pace terrifies teams.
Yeah.
Terrifies them. We saw what he did to Gvardiol. I think he's got to start. And I also think, see, on Hampden's such a big surface, there's so much space for a player like him to go and enjoy. Yeah, he's got to start for me.
What about the defence, Keith? I mean, you've obviously said that you would go with McKenna, Joseph.
Again, I'm kind of basing this a lot on what I think Steve Clarke will do.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there's a better balance. Listen, John Souttar certainly didn't have his finest game in Greece on Saturday night. Terrible mistake at the first goal. I don't know what he was doing. It was schoolboy stuff, but he's better than that. And I'm saying Hanley comes out. There's probably. I mean, he wasn't the two of them. You know, I thought Hanley really got skinned for the second goal in the breakaway as well. Hanley might have reacted quicker at the first goal after Craig Gordon makes the initial save. So neither of them actually come out of that with, you know, they certainly don't come out with flying colours. And I'm sure there'll be arguments out there for they should both be replaced. I don't know. I've said I think he'll bring McKenna in. McKenna offers you that pace. He's got burning pace for a big boy, and I think we'll need that because, as I said, Hampden, big pitch. If you get caught in the counter, you need all the pace you can get at the centre of your defence.
Yeah.
For that reason, and the reason that it's 2 games in short succession, I think Souttar's, you know, that little bit younger. He's able to go again. I think McKenna does come in. I suspect that'll be the move that Steve Clarke makes. Now he could bring back. He could rip it all up, and why wouldn't you? Because it's not really worked that well over the last 3 games. So would it be the biggest shock in the world if he ripped it up and went to a 5 and got Kieran Tierney back in? Because this system was, the 5 at the back system was created specifically with Tierney in mind.
Yep.
He could do that. But again, what do you do with Doak? Listen, I'm just glad. I'm just glad that Steve Clarke making these choices and not me, because I think I would do one of them. I'd rip that team up about 42 times in the next 42 minutes and be, you know, writing a new one. So I think Steve Clarke. What I'm pleased to say is I think he knows in his own mind he's settled with what he wants to do. It was brought up to him. It was mentioned to him today, and we'd talked about this previously, that after the Greece doubleheader in the Nations League, he said that he didn't make enough changes for the second game, and he said that was a lesson that he's learned. But he's taken a big step back from that in his presser today. He actually said something more along the lines of, well, what we've done is we've changed our routine. We went to the training camp. That means we only had, you know, we didn't have back-to-back long flights, a long flight out and a long flight back. We went out to Turkey. So I think he was walking back a little bit from suggesting wholesale changes. So I think there might just be 1 or 2. And I think, as I said there in my team selection, I don't know if this will be Steve Clarke's choice or not. Maybe it's mine. And maybe it's to do with how well Dykes did physically against the Danes in the opening game of the group. I wouldn't be surprised to see Lyndon Dykes lead the line. And in fact, if it was me, I'm trying to get inside Steve Clarke's head, and it's impossible to do. It's impossible. How many times have we sat before a Scotland game went, what is that? What is he thinking?
But
so
then,
I've not even
more
got to
times
try
than
and
not,
do
he
that.
gets the result.
He gets it right. Yeah, he gets it right. We get it wrong. And I'm happy to say that. Delighted to say it. But for me, I just think that is the one thing. I'm not saying that Steve Clarke is going to play Lyndon Dykes. I'm saying if I had an influence in that, and it's a toss of the coin as well, because I think that Shea Adams, for all that there are issues with his finishing, I think he does bring a lot to the team. I accept that I don't think he brought all that much on Saturday night, and I think we could do a change. And yeah, I think Lyndon Dykes would get the nod if it was me. I think, but I'd probably change my mind again in a half an hour.
Aye, the striker one's really hard. I think the hardest decision to make. I mean, as John points out, would you believe the only major nation that Shea Adams has scored against is Denmark? Of course, that time at Hampden.
See, there you go. Now he's went changed my mind.
but then, James
I didn't
Murray.
even get half hour.
James Murray in the comments says, I do think Dykes, given his aerial dominance last time, should start. He can cause problems, I feel, and I get that. But see, if I was Steve Clarke, Keith, would you not like to have a guy like Dykes, a guy with those qualities held in reserve? So, Alan Weir says, if we don't win, we still got a playoff. Just throw caution at the wind. I'd like to have a Dykes held back to go, do you know what? 20 minutes to go. I'm going 2 up front. Let's just go for it.
No. Do you know why? Because Dykes physically is a specimen, right? So you don't have to worry about getting 90 minutes out of him. What I think is that he ragdolled the Danish centre halves over in Copenhagen. He was they just couldn't deal with him. So I think if you've got Shea Adams in reserve, you've got Shankland there. These guys can come on at any time. I think if I'm a Danish defender and I'm up against a battering ram in Lyndon Dykes for 70 minutes, that's going to take more out of me, and maybe that might mean that by the time a Shea Adams or a Shankland is thrown on, there's big gaps there because Lyndon Dykes will absolutely bash them to bits for 70 minutes. It's guaranteed. I thought he was immense over in Copenhagen in the first game. Physically, they just couldn't cope with him.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. Before we wrap up, Keith, there is a little bit of domestic stuff that I have to get your take on. If that's okay. Celtic, I can just read this out. They issued this on their X account around an hour ago. It says, as Celtic FC continue with the process to appoint our next permanent manager, we can confirm that Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney will continue to manage first team matters on an interim basis until this process is complete. That's the full club statement. Martin O'Neill has also given an interview to Celtic TV today, talking about he's ready to manage St Mirren, if he's needed. But I kind of, as you said at the top of the show, a bit of a curious update, a half update, maybe.
Yeah, I suppose if you try and think it through logically, they've got to say something. Because although a lot of the players are away on international duty, the rest of them, the one that aren't away, they need to get back to Lennoxtown, they need to get back to work, they need to get back in the grass, and somebody needs to take them. So you could look at it thinking, well, this is nothing more than a holding statement, which says that, by the way, over the course of the next couple of days, Martin O'Neill will continue to hold the fort. Martin's quote about quite happy to take the team on Saturday, kind of suggests something else. Because I think from all the information, we had Mick on the show, Mick Gannon, last night, and that was some good intel about where the talks got to with Nancy by the tail end of last week. The fact that Dermot Desmond had spoken to him and then pretty much left it in the hands of Michael Nicholson to dot the I's and cross the T's in terms of the contract. But Mick did say that there was a bit of scope on both sides for it yet not to get over the finishing line. In terms of Celtic have got to meet certain financial demands. Wilfried Nancy is going to have to be satisfied that this is the one that he wants. Mm-hmm. So there was still a grey area. It wasn't just black and white, even though it got to the point that Dermot Desmond clearly had been satisfied with what he'd heard. But if Martin O'Neill thinks that he might be taking the team at St Mirren, I think if that does turn out to be the case, I think it would constitute a surprise, given how close things appeared to be over the weekend.
And given the AGM is on Friday, Keith.
And given the AGM, and as I said last night, I think in an ideal world, Celtic would like to say, here's your new manager, and if there is a place for Martin O'Neill up the stairs in some capacity, announce that, try and get a bit of unity and everything pulling back together in the same direction ahead of the weekend. I see no reason, if Celtic want Wilfred Nongsi and Wilfred Nongsi wants Celtic, I see no reason why he shouldn't be in the dugout. If he wasn't in the dugout by the weekend, or an appointment wasn't made pending his arrival, you would then start to question, has something somewhere in these talks broken down? So I think it's a watching brief for the next few days. But Celtic will be quite happy that everybody else's attention right now is going to be in Hampden Park for at least the next 24, 26, 28 hours, whatever it is.
Aye, absolutely. John in the comments says, I'd like to see O'Neill Maloney in place for the important away games with St Mirren and Hibs. They're not games for a novice. And Paul Brady points out, if Nonsi is appointed this week, in my opinion, Martin O'Neill takes the St Mirren game for a fond farewell. I guess anything is possible at this point, Keith.
Yeah, I know, but I don't. Again, there's a bit of sentimentality with that one. With the previous comment, it was, well, you know, let's leave O'Neill in place because he knows the domestic scene. Well, look, if you're terrified of what the consequences are of bringing the new manager and letting him take the team, that's not a good starting point. If you've got your guy, you get him in as soon as you possibly can, and you put your trust and faith in him.
Aye.
Yeah, you don't say, well, let's keep Martin O'Neill for the tricky ones. That would make no sense at all. So yeah, you know, clearly Celtic have declared their intention here. Clearly, as of late Friday night, it was a matter of, both parties felt the thing was so advanced that it was time to talk Turkey in terms of contracts. I'm telling you, if for whatever reason Martin O'Neill is taking the team at the weekend, unless there's been an announcement to say, here's what the timescale looks like, it's done, I would start to smell a bit of a rat. I would start to think that something might be up. Not that I'm saying that that's the case, but just the prospect, given all the stuff that we've been hearing, what Mick said last night, you would. I don't see any really credible reason for failure to get that done and dusted, unless someone somewhere along the chain on Nonsi's side or on Celtic's side has had second thoughts and reservations.
Well, look, whatever happens, we'll be here to cover it all on the Hotline Live, as we always do, Keith. But for now, I think that brings us to the end of Monday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thanks as always for all the comments. Absolutely outstanding as usual. We'll be back.
Are you going to tell them?
Do you want to tell them? Go ahead, Keith. Go ahead.
No, you do. I was just making sure you hadn't forgotten.
No. We'll be back with a pyjama special, a late night Hotline
Tartan
Live.
pyjama special.
Exactly. Tomorrow night at 10 p.m. or around 10 p.m.
Or maybe just a tartan special.
I'm very hopeful that we'll be broadcasting as Scotland have just qualified for the World Cup. I don't want to give it the kiss of death, but I'm confident, Keith. The nerves are starting.
Join us. The party starts then.
10 p.m. tomorrow. We hope you can join us then. Keith, it's always a pleasure. Have a good night.
I don't know if the words good night are going to come into this, Dan. I'll have a night of some sort. And let's see where we are this time tomorrow.
Aye, fingers crossed. And I hope you can join us tomorrow, as I say, at the later time of 10 p.m. And thanks for watching at home. Cheers.